Hey, it's John from Electric Copy. Today we're going to have a look at the website of a startup called Snaptivity. And I'm going to take you through their entire homepage section by section and show you how I would make it more clear and more persuasive. So the reason I wanted to have a look at this particular website is this company has a very original, clever technology, and there really is nothing else out there like this. However, the website copy lets it down a little bit. It's not very clear about what the technology actually is, and it doesn't do a great job of selling it to the reader. Now, that's no disrespect to the people behind this website. There is a lot that can go wrong when you're writing about complicated products like this. But I want to show you how getting a few copywriting fundamentals in place and being more specific in copy can really transform a website and its selling power. Now, this is going to be a pretty in-depth video, so if you just want to see a quick before and after of the changes I would make, check the description below because I'm going to post a link to a blog on my site with some before and after photos that you can just scan through quickly. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just give you a quick background of what this product actually is, and then we'll get straight into looking at the copy. So Snaptivity is a system that combines hardware and software, and it's designed for sports venues. Now, if that isn't your area, don't worry, because the principles we're about to discuss really apply to any website. Now, what Snaptivity is a system that involves AI-controlled cameras that are set up in a sports venue. But the cameras don't take pictures of the players, they actually take pictures of the crowd. And they're able to actually sense when the action is peaking, and they take photos of the crowd just at the right moment when everybody's getting excited and getting out of their seats. Now, fans who are in the crowd can actually download a free Snaptivity app, and they can put in their seat number to find themselves. They can then find these photos that are taken of them, and they can share them on social media so all their friends can see what a great time they're having. Now, what takes this technology to another level is that every venue will have sponsors that sponsor of all the events that are happening, and Snaptivity actually puts the sponsors' branding into each of the photos. And that means that when the fans share these photos online, everyone who sees the photos also sees the sponsors' branding. Now, if you think about this, everybody wins. The fans are happy because they get these cool photos that they can show their friends and they can use to sort of relive the moment later. And it also means that they can focus on the game instead of taking photos, instead of taking selfies themselves and potentially missing something important that happens in the game. Now, the sponsors are happy because, they're paying the venue to sponsor these events, and because they get their branding in every shot that people share, it means they get extra exposure from every event that they sponsor, and that exposure will continue even after the game finishes. Now, the venues themselves are happy because, first of all, their fans are having an experience that they wouldn't have other sports venues. And they're also happy because they get better deals and better relationships with their sponsors. And presumably it means they can actually charge their sponsors more money. Lastly, they also can use these photos to gather and analyze data from the crowd. For example, they can look to see what food people are eating in the crowd, and then they can use that information to make decisions about what food that they're going to sell at the venue. So this is the first thing that people see when they land on the Snaptivity website. And let's just talk very quickly about this video in the background, because we always have to evaluate web copy in the wider context of the website that it's on. Now, on one hand, I quite like this video because it does capture the excitement of a sports event, which is really what this technology is all about. But on the other hand, it's quite busy. There's a lot going on, and my concern is that it could distract people from and slow them down from figuring out what's happening on this website. So if I was creating this website for a client, I would probably think twice about whether this video is a good idea. But okay, let's move on to the copy. And what I want to do is give you a framework for how you can actually evaluate headlines and introductions and figure out whether they're doing their job or not. Okay, so when people land on a website for the first time, the website needs to answer three fundamental questions for them. Firstly, it needs to tell them what's on offer on this website, meaning what can they actually get here. Secondly, it needs to tell them who is this actually for, and this is important because the reader wants to know that they're in the right place and that what they're seeing here is relevant to them. Lastly, they need to know why they should care about this. How does it solve a problem for them or make their life better? Now, it's important that we answer these fundamental questions very quickly on a website because if we don't, there's a good chance that the reader is either going to be confused about what's on offer on the website or they're just not going to feel interested in reading on, and there's a good chance that they'll leave the site pretty quickly. So if we look again at the headline and introduction here, we can try and evaluate the copy using those three questions. So the headline, does the headline tell us what's on offer? Does it tell us who this is for or why they should read on? Well, you don't have to be a master copywriter to see that really it doesn't answer any of those questions. We just have 4 or 5 individual words just sort of scrolling every few seconds, and it really doesn't tell us anything meaningful. So that's not a good start for the headline. Now this second line here gives us a bit more information, but let's look again at whether it answers any of those questions. So it does mention AI-controlled robotic cameras, so at least it's telling people physically what's on offer here. But this system is so much more than just cameras, so I feel that's not a very accurate description of what's on offer. It does mention them being used in an innovative way, and it mentions something about interacting with fans, but it's really not specific enough. It's too vague for us to figure out what's going on here, and for us to understand that this is taking pictures of the crowd and then using them to get exposure for the sponsors. So question 2, does it tell us who this is for? Well, actually, it mentions teams and sponsors here, and it mentions fans, but the people who would actually get this technology and use it are the sports venues, and I believe that the website is actually aimed at the venues themselves. So this doesn't answer the second question properly, and I think actually could mislead people a little bit. Thirdly, does it give our audience a reason to read on? Well, I mean, if I'm a sports venue owner and my priority is getting my sponsors more exposure so that I can charge them more money, this doesn't really tell me anything about that. It doesn't really mention what the end outcome of using this technology is. So in my opinion, it doesn't give them a strong reason to keep reading. So how could we improve this? What I will do now is use a Chrome extension to edit some of this text, and I'll take you through a process of kind of building towards a good headline, an introduction. But if you're here because you want to improve your own copy skills, I would invite you now to just pause the video and have a think about how you would improve this, and then you could compare your copy to mine at the end. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is quickly pause. And with the magic of time travel, we have a new headline. Now, this is a starting point for us. I don't think it's a great headline, but at least we're being a bit more descriptive about what's on offer here. Take amazing photos in your sports venue. The problem with this is that although it's accurate, it really could sound like we're just talking about we're just selling a camera or something like that. And it's not involving the brand exposure for the sponsor at all. So we need to kind of iterate on this and see how we can improve it. Okay, so we could develop the headline further by saying something like this: take amazing photos that fans in your sports venue love to share. This is a step in the right direction because we're showing that this is about more than just taking photos. This is about creating something that fans actually can interact with. So we're going in the right direction now, but the problem with this is it's still very much focused on the fans, when in fact this technology is really about the sponsors and the venues relationships and business deals with them. So how can we improve this headline to reflect that a little bit more? Okay, so this is how we could develop this this headline even further. Put your sponsor's branding into amazing crowd photos that fans in your sports venue love to share. Now, this is getting closer to a great headline because it's showing how this technology benefits both fans and sponsors, which is something that we know is important to the venues who might use this. It is a little bit long, and if I was kind of in my editing phase, I might think about removing the word sports, because if we have imagery in the background that makes it clear that this is at a sports venue, then we might not need to use that word. And that's what I was talking about earlier on when I mentioned kind of evaluating copy in the greater context of the website. We always want to think about how visuals and copy are working together. Okay, so for me, this is much better as a headline, but I think there's one more option we could explore, which is we could really try and hook them by talking about, by trying to answer the third question, which is why I should read on. So we could do that by hitting them with a benefit or a business outcome that we know our audience really cares about in our headline, and then we can kind of follow up with that by explaining a bit more in the line underneath. So how could we change this headline so it really captures the attention of our audience with an outcome that we know they really care about? We could do it with a headline like this: get your sports venue sponsors more exposure at every event. So even though this isn't saying exactly what this technology is yet, we're really hitting the audience with a promise that we're going to solve a problem that they really care about, which is getting the sponsors more exposure. However, there are a couple of ways we could improve this even further. Now, I mentioned earlier on that we're going to talk about making copy more specific. And when you're writing a headline like this, where you're kind of delivering a promise to the reader, it's always better, if you can, to be more specific about the outcome and about exactly what you're going to deliver through what you're offering. Now, if I scroll down a little bit further in the site, and we're going to come to this section later, there's a really nice stat here in the site about the Snaptivity photos being 3 times more likely to be shared. Now, I think that's a really great stat, and it's a shame that the company has kind of hidden it down here, because it's a great stat to share about. So what I would want to do is get more specific in this headline and actually include that stat. And here's how the headline looks if we add that stat: get your sports venue sponsors 3 times more exposure at every event. So now if our audience is landing on the site, they really know exactly what we're going to get them, and it's a pretty strong promise now that we've added that number. I'm pretty happy with this headline now. I think just one more thing I would do to put the cherry on top is to try and kind of reflect the sports theme that we have on this site already. So maybe just to do that and make the copy a little bit more sports focused, I would change this word "get" here to something like "win." Voila. So now we have win your sports venue sponsors 3 times more exposure at every event. Now this is a kind of a very outcome-led headline, which is kind of designed to grab the attention of our audience. The only thing is, it doesn't actually tell us a lot about what this actually is and how we achieve that. And that's fine. The headline can't do everything, but we have to make sure that we follow up here in this second line with the rest of the information that answers those fundamental questions that we talked about. So how can we do that? Well, first of all, I think we need to tell people that this is actually a technology, because so far we haven't said anything about what this actually is. It could be a technology, or it could be some kind of service. It could be some kind of advertising service. So let's come right out of the gate by literally just saying that this is a technology. So this is how I would start the second line. Snaptivity is the sports venue technology that delights fans and sponsors alike. So we're immediately telling them what this is. It's this technology, and we're making it clear this isn't just for your fans. It's not just for your sponsors. This is something that's going to please both of those groups. Then we're following it up with saying this takes amazing crowd photos and adds your sponsor's branding to every shot, winning your sponsor's exposure when fans share the photos online. So we're spelling out exactly what this does, and we're also linking to the headline. And hopefully, if they were wondering how it wins them more exposure at every event, we've now clarified that in this second line here. So hopefully this means that we've answered all three questions. We're saying exactly what's on offer here. We're telling them it's a technology that takes photos of the crowd and then lets fans share the photos online. We're also telling them who this is for, because we're saying win your sports venue sponsors. So it's clear that we're speaking directly to people who have a sports venue or work for a sports venue. And we're answering the third question about why they should read on. And we're doing that by talking very clearly and specifically about how we solve a particular problem for a sports venue, which is how to get their sponsors more exposure. Okay, so this is how I would change this introduction. I'm not going to say it's perfect copy. In fact, I might think about how I could make this a little bit shorter, or how I could kind of avoid repeating the word sponsor here. But overall, this is now at least doing the job that a headline and an introduction is supposed to. Okay, that's the end of part 1 of this video. Part 2 is coming right up, so stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.